Schutte here with Mary Camacho and David Atkinson for Holo. And let's get started. We're going to do some intros, some thank yous, some announcements, some FAQs, and then our Ask Me Anything. First off, the thank yous. We would like to start with our sincere gratitude to our entire community. Thank you to our growing developer community and strong volunteer team who provide support on the various forums and channels: Reddit, Telegram, Mattermost, Facebook, Twitter, etc. Our capacity as a community has expanded as a direct result of the continuous and strong contributions from the community leaders, and volunteers. Some quick introductions. We have David Atkinson, the commercial director for Holo. David, can you wave?
Thanks, Matthew. I'm waving.
And we've also got Mary Camacho, the executive director for Holo. Hey, Mary. And I'm Matthew Schutte. I'm our evangelist slash communications director. Some quick announcements. We have several meetups and events scheduled for the first quarter of 2019. On January 24th, there will be a Holochain meetup in Istanbul, Turkey. The registration is online now. We expect around 150 signups. That's pretty awesome. Our third dev camp is planned for February 18th through 22nd. That's an online event. We'd love you to participate if you're interested. We are honing and refining our training offerings for those who are really excited about building on Holochain. And DevCamp is probably the best way for you to dive in quickly. If you'd like to join a meetup community, look for a city or region-specific channel on our chat channel at chat.holochain.org. If you don't find one, there are two options. Create one and announce it on the announcements channel, or start to organize your own meetup by emailing events@holo.host. Eric Baer will be happy to help you get started. We're looking for volunteers to help organize and run AMAs in other languages. We had a successful Chinese AMA on December 28th that was organized by our Chinese community volunteers, John, Aaron, and Kim, in collaboration with the Holo team. We're interested in creating AMAs in Turkish, Spanish, and any other language our community thinks is important. The best way to get involved is to join our city, region, or country channels on Mattermost. Again, that's chat.holochain.org, and or send a direct message to @DHT Network, again, on chat.holochain.org. If you and a group of volunteers help organize translators for an AMA, I or another Holo team member will schedule a time to appear and answer your questions. A few words before we dig into the questions. So we've been talking about our Medium channel recently, identity verification, and last week, the hot to Holo fuel swap. These are not new topics, really. We've been considering them, designing for, and articulating them, starting back with our green paper for Holo, and in many early blog posts. There's also a wealth of information in the Holochain white paper, and especially the currency white paper. Tonight is a continuation of those ideas, hopefully answering the questions that are still outstanding in your minds. And if we miss one, please give us your questions here in the YouTube chat box. We're going to start with some frequently asked questions. We've had a bunch of questions showing up in various channels, and so we'll just dive into those. You ready, David, Mary? All right. First one. The swapping mechanism seems more like a process of purchasing Holo fuel rather than swapping. Is there any difference between direct purchase and swapping? Mary, you want to take this one?
Sure. Well, I'd say the big difference here is that most crypto is token-based, whereas Holo fuel is really accounting-based. Whereas you might swap one bill for another in the crypto model, and each bill might have a really specific serial number that's managed by a distributed but, somewhat centralized ledger or singular ledger. On Holo, instead, your fuel is stored in an account, and it's an account that only you can change. So all of this is reflected then on a balanced ledger. So it runs really, I'd say, on the same principles as double entry accounting. In this initial period that we're talking about, when people are swapping hot for Holo fuel, we'll be holding the hot in a reserve. So that reserve will only release hot when a host redeems Holo fuel for it, because inside the Holo network, while Holo fuel can be transferred in various ways and used for different things, only hosts who are contributing are really the ones that can redeem from a currency, from a reserve currency. So users who want to use hot on dozens of crypto exchanges, they can deal with the hot as a digital token, but users who really are using the fuel on our hosting network for crypto accounting transfers, that's all within the context of the accounting, dual accounting. And really, until the community is ready to burn the tokens and fully transition into accounts on Holo fuel, that's how hot and Holo fuel is going to work.
Awesome. Thank you, Mary. Second question. What steps will Holo take to make sure that the swapped ERC20 hot tokens are taken out of circulation? David, do you want to take this one?
Sure thing, Matthew. So hot will be held in a multi-sig wallet, which is going to be programmatically bound to the hot reserve account on the Holo ledger. We'll make sure nothing goes in or out without it being reflected in the other. So just like Mary was talking about before, again, based on these principles of double entry accounting. So both of these are going to be completely visible to the community. The hot wallet, visible on the Aetherium blockchain, and the Holo fuel account, which is visible on Holo's DHT. So you can see if any transfers are happening in one that are not reflected in the other.
Awesome. Thank you, David. We got another question. Can you explain the currency design? I don't understand the currency design. Quote, I think it's stupid. I can take that one, I suppose. Or actually, no, David, let's have you do that one as well.
Sure. So we actually, we got in advance, we had Arthur Brock, who is one of the core currency designers, and a lot of you will know Arthur, one of the co-founders of Holochain and Holo. So we got him to take a little bit of a go at this question. I'll read some of it and share some of my thoughts, and we'll also make sure that his full response is published. I think well, Art says, look, it's true the design of Holo fuel is very different from token-based cryptocurrencies that dominate the crypto market. And when we're thinking about this design, what we're looking about is how to solve problems and build economies based on real-world value that other currencies aren't designed to perform. So the first challenge that people have is when they've traditionally designed cryptocurrencies, they've been thinking about fixed supply following the Bitcoin model, right? But markets have cycles and demand fluctuates. And so having a fixed supply or a time release algorithm eliminates any correlation to market dynamics. So what happens is the value of the currencies fluctuate up and down because supply can't adapt. And this sounds maybe to people still a little bit abstract, but when you're thinking about something that has a real world value, and it could be in-game payments, for example, imagine if 10 people all were playing a game and wanted to make a payment. And then a week later, 1 million people all wanted to buy in and make payments. Well, if you have a fixed supply currency, the price is the thing that will be handling the fluctuation in demand. Therefore, you get these massive value changes. And Holo fuel is designed to be resilient against this value roller coaster, so it's safe for people to rely on. Holo and Holo fuel that we're talking about is redeemable for hosting power, and the hosting power enables kind of scalable web applications to be built using this currency. But we think this model is actually a far stronger model for any kind of exchange-based digital currency rather than the fixed supply tokens that are dominating today. So we're thinking a little bit about how Holo fuel will work. Holo Fuel is effectively a pre-purchase or credit. It says it will be redeemable for hosting. The hosting power is the thing that backs the value of Holo Fuel. And so underpinning our currency is the world of hosting. Now we expect hosting to become distributed as people are taking advantage of the holochain technology and Holo. And so what we will get is a dynamic that in our currency design, where actually we're going to be having the change in supply and change in demand being there to be able to affect both the way the price works and also the way that the service is being provided on the network. So someone will be sharing the full statement from Art. And Mary, you wanted to jump in and say something?
Yeah, I just want to add something in there. I think what's fundamentally different is that Holochain, which is the core of what we've built as an application framework, was built to do something far different than what token cryptocurrencies are doing today. It's actually built for people to be able to run full complex applications on. And that complexity, those large applications that have microtransactions that require millions of users working at the same time, that requires a different architecture and something entirely new. Holochain is that new thing. That is why it's so important. And that's why the adoption matters. And that's why people are going to want to build things here that they cannot fundamentally build on other crypto architectures.
Thanks, Mary.
Yeah.
Okay. And thank you, David. Next question. Does taking hot out of circulation during the swap rather than burning it create more money for the Holo organization?
No. That's a pretty straightforward one. We've been describing it in the Holo Fuel 101. It's going into a reserve. It's a swap to the reserve, and that's it. Now you have Holo Fuel, you used to have hot.
And so it's not the organization's to spend.
It is not. The only way that money can come out of the reserve is if a host who has service logs for having provided hosting redeems Holo Fuel for that hot.
Awesome. Okay, next question. How can someone obtain reserve account status? Can you take this one too, Mary?
Sure. Well, this isn't something we really can provide the details on yet. We are in the process at this point of getting some initial reserve accounts implemented. And once that's been done, as we get through our test nets, we'll be able to share a lot more about that.
Great. Next, is the currency design problematic for investors? How does this currency design benefit investors who are not interested in using Holo Fuel for hosting, who simply want to trade and invest? Mary, do you want to take this one as well?
Sure. Well, the thing is fundamentally the reason to invest in Holo Fuel is the same today as it's been since we've been starting this process in writing. We're creating something brand new. We have a fundamental belief that there will be usage and growth, and that limited supply currencies with artificial scarcity are, they may look attractive initially for investors, but as those prices increase, they start creating a huge barrier to adoption. And ultimately, you can lose a lot of money if those projects fail to get users and die, which we've seen happen. Instead, Holo Fuel is actually designed to optimize growth and usage. That supply dynamic that we're talking about actually points to or helps create that value stability. And it means the price of Holo Fuel will better track with the fundamentals of use and of intrinsic value. So it's going to lead to more informed trading rather than sort of the gambling and market manipulation that you're seeing in other tokens. And really that value stability is going to happen gradually. That's why we say it's a great investment. Initially, Holo Fuel is going to be going through some price discovery. It means that with a dynamic supply, it's not going to dampen price changes significantly.
David, do you have any follow-up comments?
Yep, I do. Just with the microphone, any quick feedback and just let me know that it's all working. And it's a really interesting question in terms of the implications of investment. And I think one of the when we talk to people who are investors of other crypto projects or thinking about how to build currencies and how to design economies that are going to thrive over the next 10, 15 years, coming from a fixed supply model, what people are looking for is effectively the creation of free money. Right? Because in a fixed supply model, when you're designing a currency before your economy is up and working, it looks like you're making something from nothing. And what ends up happening in a lot of these economies are, one, if the token price increases dramatically, well, then the economy doesn't have the reserves to be able to pay for the service or product that's been promised. And if the token price decreases dramatically, well, then that's another problem, because everybody who bought in early, who wants the access to the product or service, gets dramatically reduced purchasing power. So your customers are frustrated. And in the middle, as we've showed in a previous answer, because a fixed supply is using demand, has variable demand, and therefore needs price to change, what you get is it's very hard to have any form of price stability. So in this scenario, what looked attractive to investors was most likely just a freak pocket of time where everybody thought everything would be successful, and so prices just went up, and people who sold were able to capitalize, and the people who bought from the people who sold have suffered. So actually, what we think is this design is one of the few designs of utility that are attractive to any early purchaser of the currency, because we believe that both the people who are pre-purchasing hosting credits, who believe deeply in the ecosystem, will be rewarded, as well as hosts who are early participants will be rewarded. And that's why, this design is 10, 15 years in the making. And it might take a little while for people to get their heads around, but we can guarantee that simply just saying, look, we'll have a fixed supply and everyone's going to benefit, we've seen the costs of that kind of model.
Thank you, David. A related question. We've had this reoccurring sentiment. What's in it for investors and ERC20 holders? Mary, do you want to take that one?
Sure. So, I mean, in some ways, we're saying a little bit of the same thing here in a different way, right? Holochain and Holo are really transforming sort of the distributed application technology and distributed hosting world. We're introducing, a new way, a new design of the cryptocurrency, as David was describing. And they're not just simple cryptographic replacements of existing fiat currencies that are cheaper and anonymous. Instead, these currencies reflect and account for real value. It's the underlying asset, whether that's in the form of processing power and storage, as it is with Holo, or whether it's in the form of energy or food. It's backed by something tangible, and it's something that's needed, something that is an asset. And these are going to bring far more complex applications into the realm of distributed computing, which we haven't seen a whole lot of, really. This is going to make available the value, of the immutability in a DHT ledger to all sorts of complex real-world applications. And as adoption increases, so does the value of Holo, because the growth is of an intrinsic value. So one of the things that people have said is that neither Holo nor exchanges seem to be entirely certain how to handle Holo fuel in relationship to trading at this stage, because we explained in our swap message that we aren't certain about the timing on certain things with regard to third-party exchanges. But the issue is it shouldn't be surprising that people don't know how to interact with us yet. When Crypto Briefing went out and did a review on us and described us, they called us a new, weird, awesome creature, some kind of decentralized beast. And that's exactly why what we're saying in the swap period is going to be open, but that we're not having a set end date yet. It's because people do know that about us, and we're not sure how long it will take. But during that process, what we're committed to is that all the users of hot and holo fuel have a liquidity option, right? And so by leaving hot available both in the reserve and out there on exchanges, we know that that keeps it available to all of our stakeholders in this period.
Thank you, Mary. And another question, can the team provide more explicit information about the swap period and duration? I'm gonna go back to you again, Mary.
Yeah, I'll take that one. So the swap period is gonna begin with the launch of the Holo Beta mainnet. The duration, as I was just saying a minute ago, it's indefinite right now because it's dependent on how fast holo fuel infrastructure is gonna get built. The swap period will last as long as it takes to ensure that other liquidity options are available. And those will come both in the forms of getting other national fiat reserves up and running and also having holo fuel listed on exchanges.
Right. Another related one, when can the team, sorry, not the team, but when can the community learn about swap details and instructions? When are we going to be able to provide those?
Sure. Well, we're starting to provide a lot more information week in and week out right now, and I'm sure a lot of people have noticed that. But each testnet, as we prepare for the release, is going to give us the opportunity to test a lot of different aspects of the Holo platform. And Holo Fuel has some specific tests expected in each one of the testnets that we've announced. So immediately prior to those, we're going to be communicating what's included in the release. We're going to give details about how it will work. And until we get through all of that, we're really not going to be communicating mainnet instructions. We're actually going to iterate through. We're going to learn from the process, and then we're going to give you better instructions when we're ready to launch mainnet.
Thank you. Yeah, I've heard a bunch of members in our community express gratitude in different podcasts and blog posts and things, basically saying, oh, wow, they're not forecasting, the future 10 years in advance. They're being realistic about the fact that they know this much, they can see this far in advance. And after that, they can give a bit of an indication where they think things are going to go. But yeah, I've heard some gratitude about us not pretending like we're fortune tellers. All right, next question. This is a follow-up on the expected release of the advanced sale holo fuel certificate. Do we have any updates on that, Mary?
Yeah, I'll take this one as well. So the digital certificates for the advanced sale for holo fuel are expected actually by the end of Q1. So we're initiating a testnet for that holochain app this month, which is great. And we'll be making formal announcements when we've completed testing. So this isn't the formal, hey, this is the date, but that will be coming. But also keep in mind that the redemption of a digital certificate for holo fuel is still dependent on Holo Beta mainnet. So that's going to be later on in the year. So keep looking for information that will be leading up to that.
Thank you, Mary. Here's a more general question. Will the team achieve the milestones and goals in 2019?
Yes. So yes, we're going to launch our test nets. We're going to launch our mainnet. We're going to continue building the community of developers. We're going to continue partnering with app distributors who are launching new holochain apps in 2019. We're going to deliver the holoports. We're going to deliver them to all of our IgG users. We're going to deliver them to the people who are pre-ordering them right now on the Holoport website store. So through the Commons engine, I don't know if you guys saw the post today out there on Medium, but we're going to continue and work with our partner program as well to collaborate with groups that are designing asset-backed currencies and applications that are going to run on Holochain and Holo. We are going to deliver on the milestones for Holo.
Thank you. 13, and this is a common question as well. I don't exactly understand what's going on. Will hot and holo fuel remain in the market? Will holo fuel be distributed to all the hot holders one-to-one? Will both be listed on exchanges? David, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, sure thing. Yeah, this has been commonly asked, hasn't it, over the last few months. So what we say is both hot and holo fuel will remain on the market. When hot is swapped to holo fuel, it will be taken out of circulation, as we described earlier. When fuel is swapped back to hot, then the hollow fuel is also removed from circulation as part of our variable supply. Because of this, we're not expanding the circulating supply. We're merely giving users flexibility on whether they want to hold the hollow fuel in its native form, or they want to hold tokenized hollow fuel, which is hot. So all hot holders can redeem hot at a reserve hollow fuel at a 1-to-1 rate, as we've committed to. It's not an airdrop where holders can keep their hot and also get hollow fuel. It's a redemption. You'll know that hot is currently listed on exchanges, and there's nothing that prevents exchanges from also listing hollow fuel.
Awesome. Thank you, David. Last of our pre-written questions that we had pulled from all of our various channels. Sammy told us that Holo and Binance had reached an agreement on the listing of Holo Fuel. Any new movement? Marion, you want to take that one?
Sure. So yes, we did reach an agreement with Binance when we got hot listed, and exchanges do, and of course, will want to list Holo Fuel eventually. You know what I was just saying a few minutes ago about Holo Fuel and Holochain being a new beast. It's different. It isn't an ERC20 token. It isn't something that they're familiar with yet. So we can't just make promises about when those things are going to happen. We know that people are going to want to interoperate. And right now, we're focused on getting mainnet. That's what we have to launch first. And so we're not making any promises on what third-party partners are going to be doing at this stage. And it's exactly why we adjusted the swap design to make sure that we keep hot available. Because until liquidity is available to all of our stakeholders, we are not going to announce the end of the swap period and start burning hot. Okay. And just to be clear there, when we make an announcement about the end of the swap period, we're going to give people 6 months. And that's going to be once we know that there is a way to have liquidity for everybody. Okay?
Thank you, Mary. All right, some questions from YouTube. Hello, how many Holo ports have been sold since the new online Holo store opened? Mary, do you know that? I do. I have that answer.
290 is the number I saw floating around.
Yeah, 290 so far. And how long has it been open?
Oh, we opened it right at the very end of the year. I know a lot of those that sold, we pulled some reports early on, and a large number of the sales have been on Nanos, but we've sold a lot of Holo ports and Holo Port Plus as well.
Awesome. Yeah, so a couple of weeks, and we're nearing 300 new Holo ports sold. Next question, will Holo Fuel be storable on a Ledger Nano? I've seen a little bit of stuff about this. Mary, David, do either of you have an answer here?
I do not have an answer. I'd have to look into that one.
My understanding is that because Holochain works differently than other cryptocurrencies, it's not certain yet that Holo Fuel will be storable on a Ledger Nano as it's currently set up. I'm not certain about that, but my belief is there may be new methods required for doing this stuff. So for those who are not familiar, a Ledger Nano is a type of hardware wallet. It makes it easier for people to avoid having their crypto keys, the keys to their fortune, if they've got a bunch of crypto, from being stolen. It's a way for them to access and use their keys without having other people be able to easily spy on them, is basically the gist, and steal the keys.
Matthew, maybe jump in for a second, but this is, I think, one of the reasons why the message came out last week in the way that it is, that we're talking about the swap and the way that we've redesigned it, because someone asking that question sounds like they probably want to hold their hot on a Ledger Nano until they're ready to move into the ecosystem and begin hosting.
Yeah, so just to be clear, hot, yes, you can hold that on a Ledger Nano. Holo Fuel, not sure about that yet. So one of those, yes, can be held in that way. Another, we're not certain.
Just also to note about some information that's going to be coming out in much more detail in future weeks on our blog post. We're going to be talking a lot about our deep key and DPKI and how it's much easier to recover lost private keys if they've been assigned to trusted friends. We have a lot of different design implications in Holo. And keep in mind that with Holo Fuel, it is an account, but it's an account that only you have the keys to do the transactions for on your Holo Fuel. So we'll be getting into a ton of detail, answering a lot of those questions in upcoming blog posts where we share specifics about the design. And then we'll probably do other AMAs where we'll take lots of questions on those and dig in deep.
Yeah, the stuff around deep key is actually really exciting. We'll be sharing more on that soon. Will there be a way to exchange Holo Fuel for fiat without the use of Binance or other exchanges? And if so, how? Anybody want to take that one?
Sorry, I was still muted. So the question is, will there be a way to exchange Holo Fuel for fiat, and how? Okay, just want to make sure I heard it correctly. So for hosts in the Holo network, there will eventually be reserve accounts in a variety of different currencies that they will be able to redeem Holo Fuel for service logs into whatever currency that the reserve has. Beyond that, we're not quite speaking to it because there's a lot of possibilities about this, how this could go. Obviously, there are exchanges. There could be other exchanges that are not third party, that are holochain application type exchanges. We don't have all those answers yet because we won't be part of all of it. There could be a lot of people coming over the course of the next 6 months, year, and longer, creating incredible solutions to things you guys are all asking about, and we don't know all the answers.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, the one thing that I want to highlight that Mary touched on there is with our current design, it's people who are actually doing the work of hosting that will be able to redeem through our reserve accounts. People who are not hosting, that particular path of redemption won't be available. Though, as Mary was just pointing out, there may be other paths. Okay. We have, how many HAPs are in progress on Holochain? Oh, I don't know off the top of my head. Anybody else have any knowledge, estimates?
David, you want to take that one?
Yeah, I will. I think that there's a few, so I'd say we are going through, we're profiling certain apps that are being built, have been built. I think we've done 2 of those profiles or showcases so far, and we have a series more to come over the coming weeks and months. So there's an active community of people who've been to meetups, been to events, been to hackathons. Some are a long way down the build, some are early in their build. I think we have about 50 or 60 projects on GitHub with various forms of activity. I'd say that what our intention is to create a vibrant pool of activity around our application community where people are sharing modules within their applications, they're sharing best practices, some are working together, some might be working in competition in certain markets, but we're working very hard to create this really vibrant community because we're still not at mainnet yet. What we're putting in place is all of the infrastructure and support so that someone wants to come and build an application on Holochain. It's an incredibly easy experience, and it's fast, it's low cost, it's infinitely scalable, and it's also better. So yeah, about 50 or 60, but growing every month.
Thank you, David. And one of the things for those who are interested in hearing more about those projects that we're going to be highlighting, we're going to be doing a series called Powered by Holochain, or we have been. So what else do we got here? We have 5. I couldn't imagine how the required disk space will be supplied by the Holoport owners. Can you explain the model? I think Holochain needs huge disk capacity for app developers and their users. I may try to take that one on. So this is just Holochain and Holo. One of the interesting things about Holochain is in order to serve an app, you don't have to have all of the content on that app on your machine. So for instance, if I wanted to help serve Facebook, in the traditional model, I would have to have all of the content from Facebook's billions of users, all those photos, videos, etc., on my device in order to be able to serve that. With Holochain, that's not the case. This is actually how Facebook and Google and the other large companies that have huge data centers structure themselves. They're just doing it privately. When you reach out to them, you're not speaking to a single computer. You're speaking to a network of computers, and they're able to go and look up and retrieve content as needed. Well, that's the same thing that your Holoport does when it's preparing to serve a website. It reaches out to the network of other participants in that particular application and pulls back the photos, the videos, the text, etc., and assembles that as a web page and serves it. So you don't need huge amounts of storage space in order to be a host, because you don't need to actually hold everything locally on each device. This is very different from how blockchain works. Right? Blockchain requires each full node to hold on to a copy of everything that anyone has ever created. That's a very unscalable model. In Holochain, the application designer is able to decide how much replication is needed. And there's always a balance between having enough copies on the network and having too many. If you have too many, then you're overwhelming people with unnecessary storage. If you don't have enough, occasionally people are looking to pull back a photo and can't find it because all of the copies have happened to drop offline. And so that's basically the gist. We call that number the resilience factor. Any other comments or questions on those points, Mary, David? Nah? All right. What else do we have? We've got, will the mutual credit economy be affected by the added liquidity options, or will the inverse relationship between demand for hosting power and price take effect once HOT is taken out of circulation? One of you guys want to answer this?
Sure. It's muting and unmuting. So, you know, there's going to be a dynamic, obviously, between hosting power and price starting with our launch, but it's going to be something that's gradual. And the added liquidity is really just not forcing somebody to swap from HOT into Holo Fuel at this stage. We've had some people make comments, for example, of, you know, what is the use? We've even had questions here that we're talking about different forms of stakeholders, right? We have people who are waiting for the platform to be developed so that they can use it either as hosts or as application distributors. And then we also have people who have invested in this in sort of the long term and are really looking to see the growth of Holo. And the reality is that this is something that the liquidity options in this short term that we're doing with the swap change are just to ensure that both types of stakeholders are managed or given that option. But the inverse relationship between demand for hosting and price, it really isn't something that is affected much by those liquidity options, is what we'd say.
Thank you. Next question. What are the first HAPs, Holochain applications, what are they likely to be? And when are they likely to be available? Thoughts, comments, questions?
Well, we know we've been working on a chat app.
David?
I think there's two parts to the question. I mean, obviously we spend a lot of time thinking about this, and we're glad that, you know, we love the question being asked, and also we love the fact that our community is constantly thinking about this question. And you know what, the community is as likely to come up and create the answer as we will. In fact, probably way more likely. But I'd say that a part of the holochain design is that things move from incredibly simple to increasingly complicated. And we think that's going to be the same with the application ecosystem. So what we'll have is, at the start, really simple modules of applications that will be built as people will be testing out the technology, testing out the interoperability, all these things. So yeah, there'll probably be messaging, right? Or information sharing between devices, between people. You know, we talk a lot about various productivity tools, or it might be sharing within energy system, or what it's going to be. And then it's going to move to increasing levels of complexity, and we don't know what they're going to be. We know that there will be applications that are currently designed that are seen as incredibly complex and expensive that in the end will be replaced by holochain applications. And most excitingly, we'll know that there will be new things that we can't even conceive of today that will be built on holochain. So we can see what will be built will be increasing in complexity. Well, so we start with simple things first. What all is really exciting, what we don't know, is what are the things across that spectrum that are just going to take off?
Right.
So not just what's going to be built, but where is there going to be demand for something where the world is going to say, we prefer this being built on distributed architecture, or this makes so much more sense on holochain, or actually this could never have been built before and we really want this. So where is mass adoption going to come from? And they're the two questions, and the interplay between these two things is something that, while we'll never guess, what we're trying to do is create the conditions in our community so that we can all discover this as quickly as possible and provide as much support as possible so that the world of adoption can take off.
There was one other part of that question, which was when. When will we see the first HAPs? I mean, we've got HAPs already out in the world, but Mary, do you have thoughts on that?
Sure. Well, we can speak to what's there and what will be there right away, because the modules, the simple apps that David was referring to, some of those are ones that we're supporting the building of, right? When we're starting to talk about personas and identity, those are modules that Holo and our HAPS team is actually been working on, and those will be components that may be used by lots of other more complex applications that end up getting developed. So those are going to be available immediately. There's also applications like the blog application that it's not running on Holo, but it's already been put out there in the world, right? There's other ones that we know are underway that are going to be available early. Yes, thank you guys. So there will be applications available very early on. And as David said, it's going to be a gradual growth of an application ecosystem. And that's really important. And we really can't predict. Some of the most amazing apps we will never know until they're released, because we won't be part of every one of those apps. So it's exciting. It's exciting times. One of the big pieces that I just want to kind of come back to again, and I know this probably isn't part of the question right now, but I think it's one of the key things that are features of holochain application development that is so important for people to understand, and why it allows for this further complexity, is that HAPs can be bridged one to the other. So when we talk about modules, we're talking about people being able to take a module that is its own HAP, that is its own holochain application, and that can be bridged into one or multiple other applications. And that's really where the power of holochain and Holo are lying. And that's what's exciting about the complexity that's going to be possible in application development that is distributed.
Yeah, the way I think about that is that shifts from some single use case to not just chains of interaction, but an ecosystem, literally. So much more dynamic interaction because it's not having to be designed from the top. So that enables lots of interesting solutions to emerge. For those who aren't familiar with the blog that Mary mentioned, humm.earth, I believe is the domain. And this was basically a group of folks that built a holochain application that actually serves out over the web, which is that we're doing a generalized framework for that with Holo, but they demonstrated, yep, you can actually do it on just for serving out their blog. And they're documenting their experience. They're one of the many teams that are not only building stuff, but trying to make it easier for others to build by sharing what they're learning along the way, all the warts and all. We have another question here. What is your strategy for making a lot of companies develop dApps on Holochain? David, Mary, what do you think?
Yep, sure. I'll jump in. I just want to just quickly talking about Hum, because before I jump into this question, but to me, one of the great things about that project is I think the team has been to 5 Holochain hackathons around the world. The team also participated in at least the first and I think possibly the second dev camp, and they're incredibly active through the community. So I would also encourage anyone out there who's thinking about building a Holochain application, who wants to get to know more, do find out where there's a hackathon or a meetup or an event in your local area, or just get chatting to people online, because we are at the stage where there's a lot of voices and a lot of support around for everybody who's building, and the projects that are moving things faster are those who are taking advantage of that support. They don't need to be quiet. They're building relationships, building network, and coming to meet us wherever we are. So, we love that. So please take that step, because it will accelerate the development of your project. So I just wanted to pause there. And then, so the question, Matthew, you're asking is, what's the strategy for making a lot of companies develop dApps on Holochain?
Yes.
So I'd say the first thing is that we are not, like, you will not be surprised by this response, but we are not going around we're not just saying people are going to build things because they sound good, or making up numbers around an ecosystem, or really trying to pretend that something exists that doesn't exist. And I know there is a bit in this world of, like, we need to, if I've got a protocol, I want to justify the existence of my protocol by saying there's all these apps built on top of my protocol. And that isn't the game that we're playing. We also really like to build pull systems rather than push systems. So instead of us going around telling everybody to build on Holochain, or telling these organizations, what we like to do is understand the conditions by which organizations will be building on Holochain, and be able to create those conditions as broadly as possible and attract all the right organizations who want to build. So given those two statements, our strategy is to create the conditions to understand what are the industries and what are the types of companies that would really benefit from building on top of Holochain. Also, what are the industries? Because if you can see, even within the HoloFuel design, part of our design is creating value across an ecosystem, across an industry, not always within the silo of company. So where are there big opportunities for transformation across the world? And then how do we create the conditions by which companies, groups, organizations can be supported to be able to build the applications? And that is the essence of our strategy. So it's being very clear where the right opportunities are, creating an ecosystem of support, and creating a tool that's very easy to be built upon.
Mary, do you want to add anything to that?
Yes, I absolutely do, because I actually want to answer the inverse of that question. I want to say what we're not doing. We're not paying a lot of people to build on Holochain. We are not paying a lot of people to say they're going to build on Holochain when they're not going to build on Holochain. We are actually working with people to have them understand how to do it. We're making sure that developers understand how to do it. And we're working with companies and organizations out in the community that need solutions and are searching desperately for solutions.
I was trying to be so diplomatic.
Awesome.
Now, Mary, you've opened that up. But one of regular experience will be we'll have projects come and say, look, we've been offered X, Y, or Z to build on these protocols, and really we'll say, well, does it work? And so often the answer is no. So really, like for everyone out there, as Mary just said, like if we focus on doing all of the right things, we will build a framework by which you can build the applications that you want to build. And that is so much better for everybody.
Yeah. And one other point that got touched on is we're really trying to foster the co-learning, right? Both by helping as much as we can, but also by helping connect others with one another and encouraging them to play nice. It's kind of been an amazing feature of the Holochain community from the beginning, that people show up and they get treated really well, not just by us, but by the admins, by just members in the community. This project has happened to attract people that just treat one another well, generally. Not always, right? Everything has its issues, but it's been pretty amazing. When we've got an incredible volunteer and admin team. So I think that really matters because it's much easier to run fast when you're not running alone. And so some of the things that we're trying to do is to really assist and support people finding others that are interested in going similar places, right? Solving similar problems and connecting them so that they can co-learn. This is not a I win, you lose situation. This is kind of undiscovered territory, and it's much easier for us to make progress when we're sharing and learning from one another's insights as well as mistakes. Okay, for all three of you, without getting into naming projects building on Holochain already, which possible and in the near future feasible projects are you excited about? Mary, David, what projects are you excited about?
Yeah, I'll jump in while Mary. While Mary, you were getting off mute. I'm excited about opportunities in aviation to be thinking about how a person-centric airport might be powered by a Holochain application rather than a centralized system or even a blockchain-based system. It would be incredible for people to move around an airport and interact with airlines and other services being their own node. It might change the way aviation could work and also change our experience of what an airport could look like. I'm excited about the way that a satellite powered on Holochain might work. I'm excited about the implications for agriculture and climate through the use of energy systems, through the use of sensors. I'm actually really, really excited to see also how the messaging and chat world will work as you can bridge activity from a chat application into other applications, as the HAPS team have shown. But you know what? Of what I'm most excited about, I think I touched on before, is what is the community going to come up with that we have no concept of? That's the moment I'm waiting for, when we look at something and just think, oh my goodness, never in a million years would we have believed that someone could have done this, and this is how people are using it. That's the moment, because that's what you build these things for. You build it for the magic of what people can create.
Right. So I want to just touch on it real briefly. David, you said so many things, and so many of them are ones that I'm also excited about. But one that you didn't mention that for me looks like a fantastic use of Holochain really gets into private data and the medical world, right? And I have been frustrated for years and years and years that my medical records live somewhere else, not with me, and that I'm not the one sharing them out with the providers that I choose to work with. To me, that is one of the most basic, identity-based uses for Holochain that I can't wait to see somebody go develop.
And I'll just briefly touch on, I'm excited to see, one, Holochain applications that really start to foster more vibrant supply chain ecosystems, basically. And then two, I'm interested in disaster recovery, disaster response applications, situations where a network goes down and yet people in the local area are able to communicate. They do have access to information. Just because they got cut off from some warehouse in Silicon Valley or Oregon or somewhere else doesn't mean they can't coordinate their own activity and response. And I'm excited about seeing how those develop. Other questions? Let's see. Last one, and then actually no, we should probably wrap up. We got 4 minutes left. We've got a little bit of wrap up. Oh, Mary's saying she only needs 40 seconds. Okay, fair enough. All right, one more. We've got, do you consider yourself a competitor to Aetherium? Mary?
Sure, I'll answer that one. I mean, at some level, yes, right? Ethereum has a way for people to write smart contracts, applications on their network. They have a way for people to create currencies on their network. We have those things too. So of course, at some level, we are a competitor to Ethereum. And it's just so much more than that it's not our only focus. We're also a competitor to AWS. We're also a competitor to Azure. It's much, much larger than any one of those things because we're creating a distributed application framework that's never existed before.
Thank you, Mary. Okay, we're gonna cut it. We'll do some quick wrap-ups. Mary, do you wanna? Yeah,
I just wanted to appreciate everybody for being here with us tonight, and also all the people who have been posting, engaging, and reading all the blogs and communications. And as you've probably noticed, we've really been stepping that up lately around communication. We've been getting out a lot of different types of, dev pulses, technical information, developer details, and it's part of our commitment at this point. And I want to give a big thanks to all of the volunteers that help us do that help get the word out, that answer questions, and all of the people on the Holo team who contribute to the effort as well. It's really fantastic. The work is going just super. In the coming weeks, we're going to be sharing a lot more. We're going to be talking in upcoming weeks about the licensing that is going to be used for Holochain. And that's something that we've talked about only briefly in a few early blog posts. You might have heard of the Human Commons license. The name may be undergoing a change right now, but we're super excited about that. So watch the blog, watch all the community channels, and keep engaging with us. Keep asking questions. We're really excited to be in this journey with you. So thank you.
Wonderful. Again, thank you to our admins, to our volunteers, to our meetup organizers, to those of you who participated in our Indiegogo campaign, our initial community offering, our meetups, our hackathons, our dev camps, etc. It's wonderful. Until next time, thank you very much. I'm Matthew Schutte. This is Mary Camacho and David Atkinson. Take care. Talk to you soon.